I almost didn't put out an episode this week because it is Christmas week and I had a lot of stuff to do, but some people don't have or don't think that they have family, friends to be around over Christmas. And even though for some Christmas is an extremely happy time, for others it's a depressing time because it magnifies all of the feelings that you have. If you're extremely happy, it's that on steroids. If you are sad, then it's that on steroids. So I feel like Christmas time is the time of extremes, which means that this podcast and this specific platform is especially important this week. Today, you're going to hear from Ty, who founded Bearded Warriors. There's a lot of organizations out there that you can donate to, and some of them give a very low percentage to the actual people that are in need. Bearded Warriors are not like that at all. It all goes to the community which they serve, and a lot of it is donated time and donated efforts. So if you guys are looking for something to donate to this holiday season, or if you are looking for an outlet to connect to other veterans, or if you're having a hard time and you need a number or somebody to call, try Bearded Warriors. At the very least, look up their website, follow them on Facebook. Hit the little button down below that hopefully I'll figure out how to do before I post this thing that has all their information on it. And if none of that works, by all means, message this platform and I will figure out how to connect you to them. That being said, here's the podcast, and I hope that you all have a very happy holiday season. And please reach out if you need to. First off, thanks for coming on here. As you can see, I'm wearing your guys' shirt.
Yeah, I saw it pop up a second ago. So
the shirts you guys made for my team and my crew, we freaking loved and respected how you guys set that whole thing up. To start off, tell us about Bearded Warriors. How did it start?
So it started like 07, 08 when I was my second job out of the Army. I was working, third job. I was working as an Army contractor on the Arsenal, working with a contract where we were recategorizing work unit codes for aviation and ground support equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys that I worked with, who was also previous Army aviation like I was, kind of pulled me off to the side one day and was like, "Hey man, I don't really know, want to dig too, I don't want to pry or, get too deep into something, but like it seems like something's going on and I know I don't have any answers or anything like that, but maybe you should try to reach out to somebody." And I, immediately blew that off. And so, the initial, like everybody probably does when somebody reaches or kind of points something out to that something's wrong, all good. So I initially blew it off. And then probably a couple more months down the road, I kind of settled in a little bit more with what he said. Like he gave me just enough kind of chum in the water. And then eventually it kind of became where it was instead of him telling me I needed to go talk to somebody, because I'm not going to do that because I'm fine. But realize I kind of a little bit of self-reflection and be like, well, why did he reach out or pull me off to the side at lunch that day and say something like, what is it that I obviously am not hiding as well as I thought I was of what's going on kind of thing. And then, so that got me down to looking for resources that we had in town, whether it was through the VA or anybody else. And so over the course of that, you're still going into 2010, trying to deal with the VA. It wasn't bad. The best thing I guess the explanation I could say is it really wasn't set up for Operation Iraqi Freedom or Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraq, Afghanistan era vets. It was still really heavy on Korea and Vietnam. So
what do you mean by that? They just didn't have the
manpower
manpower for it?
No, well, not so much that, but the services that they provided were geared to that generation of everybody knows how Vietnam vets came home and how shitty they were treated by everybody and kind of just pushed off to the side or whatever. And so there was a lot of the makeup. So the services that they were providing were very heavy with the Vietnam and Korea combat vets and not necessarily set up or had anything really available. What's the age range? 26 to 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
Case in point, when I went to my first combat vet group, if you group talk or group counseling or whatever you want to call it, I was 24, and the youngest person closest to my age in there was 61.
Shit. Yeah, that's the difference.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It wasn't set up for a 24-year-old to go in and have okay, yes, all of us in that room were in the military. All of us in the room had been deployed in combat and came home. but having a 40-year age gaps. And they weren't even talking about anything that related to the military the whole time I was in there for the hour and some change. It was them just having their day-to-day conversations with their buddies because they've been in that group with each other for so long. They were just talking about their wives and whatever it was that they had going on. And I was like, this is this is
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have anything to say to any of you guys. And even if we did talk about military stuff, like, I don't know what they did every day in the military 40 years ago compared
Yeah.
to, I mean, I know there's some similarities because some things just don't ever change kind of thing, but
Yeah.
that kind of put a little bit of a hindrance on keeping going with the VA because I was like, well, this is all they have to offer. This is garbage. So,
Yeah. I could see why you'd turn away from that. Be like, well, I
Yeah.
can't relate to any of this shit.
right. Yeah, for sure. Or any of these people, you know, at the time I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going bald. I don't have a bad back. I'm not married. And like, I don't have
Yet.
any of these things. Yeah. Fast forward. I could talk to all of those guys about that. But yeah. And so it just kind of led me down. Okay, well, what else is available that's not necessarily 100% VA related or VA at all? I kind of guinea pigged myself on a lot of stuff and just trying to find resources that were in town or close enough to drive to kind of thing. And I would look up things online and this place would say, oh, we do this or we do that. You get there and it's like, it talks well.
Yeah.
Like, it looks good on paper, but it doesn't,
Yeah.
at least for me, it didn't work for me and what I was trying to seek out in mental health resources and whatnot.
You think they just didn't have any idea how to help, or they were just like, we think this will help and we hope people come, or?
I think what you get is a lot of times you get people that have all good intentions. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
think that anybody was trying to screw anybody over or take advantage of anybody kind of thing. I guess it was kind of like they were trying to use probably a successful program or plan used for people with trauma from a car accident or a house fire. Trauma's trauma. I get that, but
Yeah.
the types of trauma also still are a little bit categorized, a little bit different. And so somebody dealing with military stressors or combat issues or combat loss, or even if it's MST, which is, military sexual traumas with females and males, stuff, like all those different things, like not really geared to somebody that's having a hard time after a bad car accident kind of thing. And then they're trying to shift in and make the topics relatable to combat vets, but it really was still all the words or the verbiage for this other program. So I kind of got away from that aspect of it, I guess. I'm looking for counselors or anything like that because I just run into wall after wall after wall of things that just doesn't seem to be panning out. Then I tried to find like social activities that got vets together in general, or that anybody was having an event that got vets together to do, like coming out and hanging out at the bar or
Yep.
something. And it was kind of disheartening because, like I said, I grew up in Huntsville. I've been here my whole life. My parents were both military. That's why we even moved here. Everybody that I knew growing up, and most people I know now have something to do with the military or Redstone Arsenal and stuff like that. And so it kind of surprised me that with Redstone being here as long as it had been, that there wasn't, at least then, any organizations or individuals or businesses that offered their services or the venue open to having vets and or their family members come hang out so that they could have just normal conversations with people that kind of understood their previous life experiences or their the mindset that they had. And that was probably early to mid 2012. From then, they're just looking and trying to find things. Just like the whole community in Huntsville is so veteran dense. And it was just like, why hasn't anybody over all of these decades figured out how to get people together doing things so that they can have that same kind of sense of community and lean on that you had when you were in the military, because it just wasn't there. So it's like, well, why haven't you done it? Why haven't you done it? Point fingers left and right.
Yep.
Then it just kind of shifted to, well, why don't I do that? Like, why don't I'm the one that's looking for this kind of specific thing. So then why don't I just create that thing and then see who shows up to it and then try, just push.
How old were you? I mean, if you were, in your early
30, 31.
that's still freaking young just to be like, okay, I'm going to take on all this. Cause I imagine a lot of those people also ended up being older than you too.
Yeah, initially. Most of the people that came out to because we used to do so I started the Facebook page in
Mhm.
December of 2013, and then I would find news articles or VA articles that were put out, or you know, stuff that I saw on social media, or some, pages or groups that I followed that had information about um the process of how to go about and getting your disability, like where do you need to go to print off XYZ form, or
Yeah.
what entity of the VA do you need to talk to for whatever it is that you were trying to seek out and get a resource for. And then different articles of, how to de-stress after a long day, or what benefits physical fitness and going to
Mhm.
the gym, things, just things that gave you a little bit of help, at the end of each day, kind of thing. Really, it was just articles that I was reading that I was trying to implement for myself, and I was like, well, if I'm getting anything out of this, maybe somebody else will.
Yeah.
And so it was probably a year and a half of just doing that, and then of 14, they had the first event. I'd been going to volunteering at a bunch of events in town, which was kind of, I don't know, I made a Facebook post about it on Veterans Day, talking about kind of where I was at, kind of like how I got to where I am today versus where I was. And it's kind of like still crazy to think that that was my daily to day life,
Yeah.
of like trying to go to the store, pull into the parking lot, and then sit in the parking lot until I basically talked myself out of going into the store and just going home because I couldn't get out of the car to go inside. Even as we sit here to talk about it today, like saying that out loud almost sounds absolutely ridiculous. Somebody would be like,
Oh,
how
sure.
how can you not get out and go to the store? And it's like, not happening. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna go inside. Like it's just not a thing or whatever. And so I started finding events on Facebook that were
Mhm.
volunteer events in and around town, and just kind of basically made myself get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because at a volunteer event, it's going to be a pretty controlled environment of who's going to be there and what's going on.
Yep.
So you kind of have that idea you can wrap around. Everybody is there to help the event in some
Mhm.
way, whether set up, clean up, showing people where to go, getting people to sign up for or register or whatever. But then you always have that when you go volunteer and you're helping, you kind of have that takeaway of, well, I feel good right now because I was able to help somebody or do this or
Yeah.
make the event successful and stuff like that.
Yeah, you had a purpose. Here, I served my purpose. I did my
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
kind of, it's kind of anytime you get one of those like that dopamine hit
Mhm.
from doing something like that, you want to feel that again. And then eventually just got kind of comfortable doing that, and then really started suckering my buddies into coming do. It's like, well, hey, I'm going to go do this thing this weekend. It's a volunteer thing. We're just going to show up and do whatever. And you get two or three guys to go do that. And sometimes we would show up. There would be a group of us, and we'd show up to do the event, and then wound up directing people to where they're supposed to go, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
because I had the Facebook page, people would be like, oh, who are you guys here with? And I would just, plug
Mhm.
the Facebook page, and then it kind of took on a monster of its own kind of thing, to where people started reaching out saying, hey, we have this event coming up. Do you have anybody
That's awesome.
do you guys have anybody that's available that could help out? Whether it's
Mhm.
set up, clean up, or in between kind of thing.
So did you guys already have your name? Like, as soon as you made the Facebook, did you have a name? Were you like Bearded Warriors? That's what it is, or did it
Yeah,
evolve
well,
into it?
because I had started, like I said, before I made the Facebook page. It was probably like 4 or 5 months prior to that I decided I was going to do it, kind of like making like a plan and whatnot. And so we came up with the logo that's on your shirt.
It's a good logo.
Yeah,
I like it. You guys
yeah.
did good. I mean, granted, I know this is a police version, I'm guessing, but
Well,
with the
yeah,
with
but
the blue line,
I
but
mean, the
it's
regular
great.
logo is red, white, and
Yeah.
blue. So, yeah. But we can't, I came up with I had a buddy of mine that did graphics. So I got the graphics guy that I am friends with. And I was like, hey, can you take these three elements and
Mhm.
like cookie cutter a flag into it? And he was like, yeah, too easy. Yeah. And then off of that, I had seen, I want to say it was a Facebook video, and it was a video that was talking about like the different kinds of masks that people put on day to day, and not that they're all bad masks. They're just
Yeah.
like the face you put on when you're, with a spouse, the face you put on with your
Mhm.
buddies or your parents or your, family, like close family versus extended family. But then also like when you're not feeling it and you walk up and you've got all of a sudden you've got the smile and you're the life of the party kind of
Mhm.
face, but knowing you're literally, you know, dying on the inside kind of thing. It's something that kind of resonated with me was, um, I won't show it because it doesn't even look like me, but me without this
Mhm.
is a totally different person. Not even so much to like me seeing it, but to somebody looking at me. So somebody was to see me walking down the road,
Mhm.
shaved head, big beard. I've got, sleeve tattoos everywhere.
Yeah.
I go to the gym, I work out, I'm in good shape or whatever like that. But if somebody was to see me, they would almost instantly think, don't want to mess with him or, just the
Mhm.
persona that comes with that.
Yeah.
But what I had realized over the years of getting out and then basically creating that look of like, don't fuck with me. I don't want to,
Yeah.
not because I don't want to talk to you because I don't, whatever. I just don't want to talk to you.
Mhm.
And so having that look of that guy doesn't look very approachable or whatever. That's the mask that you're putting on. And so you know, that was the premise of Bearded Warriors. But yeah, then in 2014 in May, we started doing a once a month meetup at the memorial downtown because it had just been finished prior to that, and it was kind of centrally located for most of anybody that was in town that wanted to come and hang out, kind of thing. The day that we picked for the meet that with the very first one was on the 22nd of May, but that was only because I was trying to get everybody before they left for Memorial Day weekend. That kind of became a thing. Like it honestly had nothing to do with the 22 a day.
Just is it just veterans or military in general that commit suicide every day? 22? That's where it came from, right?
On average, 22 vets a day committed suicide. The honest number was probably closer into the 30s,
Yeah.
but a lot of things that were left, that they think were maybe left out of some of the reporting was coroner didn't know that they were a vet, and so that wasn't added into for the statistic stuff.
Mhm.
Or because recent history, insurance companies didn't cover any kind of claims or anything for life insurance policies or anything like that if that was the cause of death. And so a lot of times a lot of them weren't recorded because of for insurance reasons. And so that's why they think the numbers was a little skewed. One, because not all of the VAs submit
Mhm.
information for that report, but also because of how or what the cause of death and stuff like that may or may not be written down on the record for that person. But I think right now I think it's gone down over the last 10 years to 16 or 17, which is
I mean,
which
it's
is
high,
good.
but
I mean,
still.
yeah, which is good. I mean, that's down from, almost mid 20s with,
Yeah.
with an actuality of probably closer to 30, but that's still a
Yeah.
significant drop in a short amount of time, which is awesome. But especially with COVID happening, the huge push for just society in general, mental health resources or reaching out or, it's okay to not be okay conversations that are
Yeah.
happening. I mean, I don't, 10 years ago, you never would have seen that because seeing stuff like that over the last 13 years has been super cool. Just because, especially here, people don't talk about suicide.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, like, it's not that it's not a thing because there are families that I've dealt with over the last several years that, like, the 20-year-old vet that committed
Mhm.
suicide, their uncle did, or their dad did, or their somebody else in the family. Like I'd say a generational thing, but it's kind of like a thing that runs in with the families or whatnot. But the one thing that
Yeah.
never happened up to that point with those families was anybody talking about it. So seeing, celebrities getting behind national pushes for mental health resources or reaching out I mean, there's probably there's 100 apps that are connected to actual people to where even like 988, like you don't have to call
Yeah.
somebody and talk to somebody because if you have enough social anxiety that you don't want to say anything, you can text or email 988 and have a conversation with a human being
Mhm.
about anything that's going on, immediately.
Dang. Is there something that you saw in the 13 years or like a moment that you could think of where you're like, okay, wait, this shit is working. Like I see the, I mean, I'm sure you saw impacts along the way, but was there somebody or something that kind of clicked where you're like, okay, no, this is 100. I'm turning up to 100. I'm going to keep going with this thing because it's obviously like taking flight kind of deal.
I don't know if it's any one. it's like it's a personal passion of mine, because when I have to go meet with a family member, because typically I meet with family members before I meet with a vet, because you know the vet's like I was with my buddy at work that
Like,
day.
okay. Yeah.
I'm good. I'm totally fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
But the spouse or almost adult kids that are 16 or 17 or 18 have reached
Mhm.
out through social media and saying, hey, I'm so and so, my dad's a army vet. He got deployed, and he's the same age I am. So like we were probably in the same places around about the same time, doing the same things or whatnot. And so it's like I kind of get it. But it's like if they reach out and stuff, I can go talk to that family member, but talk to them almost as like if I was their vet, because I understand exactly what their frustration or concern, and their frustration of their vet or loved ones not going and seeking out any sort of help or resources, even though they've asked them, or something or stuff has come up over and over again. um, or the concern that, like, my dad used to be real big in us going out on family things or going to the lake or hanging out and doing all these social
Mhm.
activities, to where he just sits at the house and doesn't do anything anymore. He doesn't come to our family functions, and just like the very
Yeah.
some things that look very small that probably don't get picked up on by everybody, but the people that are with them every day all of a sudden go, they went from 100 to 50
Yeah.
real quick, kind of thing. But then on the other side of that is like when I can eventually get to or talk to the vet, I'm not a lab coat. I didn't read about this in a book in class, and or a case study and talk about it.
Mhm.
I've I've been there, I've done it, and I try to, I tell them first and foremost, I'm like, look, this is all doable. It's not going to be fun, and it's going to take a little bit of effort, but
Mhm.
it can get better, or it will get better. I said this at one of the groups that I went to later when I started going back to the VA at the vet center over off of Church Street. So they were part of the VA, but they're kind of a separate entity of the VA, to where they have a little more leeway with being able to get vets into treatment or programs and whatnot, because of the contacts that they have. Now, they're not doing anything that's shady or anything like that. They just have a
Mhm.
little more freedom than like the main clinic counselors have. All of the counselors there are prior service. Most to all of them have some sort of deployment or combat service themselves. And then, got out, used their GI Bill, went to school and said, this is what I want to do because I want to help
Yeah.
other vets and stuff. And so I went to one of the group sessions, uh, I think it was an all era. So any vet, they have different group. They have era specific, female, male, Iraq only, Afghanistan only. Like they kind of break it
Hmm.
down into a bunch of like kind of specific groups, so that you're with,
That's kind of cool. I had no idea they did that.
yeah, so you're with like minded or like experienced
Yeah.
people. But then they also have it where it's open to the co-ed group counseling or any era, so anybody from any branch of service or combat campaign can come. A lot of people try to look at all of this as like it's the big picture all done and ready to be presented to everybody, but you got to build that picture up before you present it to everybody, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
there was a Marine in the group, and he was, even in the session, he was just pissed about like he just had this, it wasn't even a chip. It was like Mount Everest on his shoulder. Like the whole fucking rock was on his shoulder, kind of thing. And you could just tell that he was just pissed off about everything.
To be fair, that
And
sounds like most of the Marines that I know. So.
yeah, well, yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have to tell my buddies all the time, like, here, bro, here's a crayon. Like, go fucking chill out or something. But he was just like, you could just tell that he was he was
Yeah.
on level 10, even in the group setting with people that been there, done the exact, all the same stuff, kind
Mhm.
of stuff. But he also you could definitely tell that he spent a pretty good amount of time in the gym. And so the counselor was there, was the mom of a girl I went to high school with. So she and I already knew each other through that. I was there as actually kind of twofold. I was there to talk about what we did with Bearded Warriors and giving the guys some opportunities to like get out and doing stuff or whatnot. But I was also there as myself, as Ty, as just a random Army vet, also, kind of thing. But he kept talking about the big picture of what he wanted, his ideal treatment, like where he wanted to be, kind of thing. But he was like, it's not like that. Like, I don't have this or I don't have that. And I was like, hey, you obviously spend a lot of time in the gym, right? He's like, yeah, why? And I was like, how much do you bench? Just how much do you bench, bro? Like, we're
Mhm.
not freaking measuring each other's dicks around here. Like, just answer the
Mhm.
question. And he said it was like 200 something pounds or whatever. But when you first went into the gym, could you lift 200 pounds? Probably not. You probably started off with the barbell, which is 45 pounds. And you probably struggled with that at some point. But then you eventually get what? You kept at it and you got better at it. And then you added tens and then you added 25s. And then you eventually added more weight as you could handle it. This the same process with finding resources and doing things and getting involved in the community and a little bit of self-reflection. And sometimes you are the problem and realizing that and
Yeah.
then applying those things, those resources. And then each time you do that, you add another 5 or 10 pounds onto the barbell to where you're eventually at 300 pounds. And it might take 6 months, a year, 3 years, or 5 years to get there. But as long as you
Mhm.
keep adding those little bitty increments instead of trying to do the bar on Monday and then drop 400 pounds on it on Friday. And so that's the mentality, but that's the mentality that I took at it also. Like when I was saying I'd go to the parking lot and sit in the car and then leave,
Mhm.
I had to go to the store because I had to get groceries or I had to get, toilet paper. I had to get those things. So what I wound up starting to do for myself was I knew that I couldn't spend any amount of time in the store just because I would just get overwhelmed. And so
Was
what
it
I
the
went
was it the people or just the environment and the overanalysis of everything or
probably Probably all of that, because people shopping carts, they're not paying attention. I mean, just
Mhm.
all of that chaos and the
Yeah.
people. And then what if I'm standing in line? Now all of a sudden I got 3 people in front of me and I got 2 people behind me. I don't know who, I'm just mentally like a duck on water. Like I look fine up here and
Mhm.
everything's still smooth sailing, but underneath the water, I'm just going 100 miles an hour,
Yeah.
freaking out or whatever. And so what I did was I figure out what I needed that day when I got to the store and I set a timer on my phone for 3 minutes. And I gave myself like, get what you need to do and stay in the store for until the timer goes off.
Mm.
Or try to.
Yeah.
First 2 times, didn't make it. Put the shit down, walked out to my car, drove home. Like, yeah, but,
Who needs toilet paper?
but then, and I still had some, so I wasn't totally out. But later that week, I did the same thing though. I like psyched myself into it, turned my timer on as soon as I walked through the door, turned my timer on, and I was like, stay in the store and get what you need, and then
Mhm.
get out, kind of thing. And then eventually, 6 minutes, 7, like whatever the increment that I could do to get to where I could eventually get all of the stuff that I needed at the store
Mhm.
without having to do 5 trips a week to get stuff like that or
Yeah.
whatever. And like I said, just those little bitty tweaks here and there. Like I said, just kind of getting myself very comfortable being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but also control, like I said, control. Like all I had to do was make it 3 minutes. And then I knew that I had a straight shot dash back to the truck where I was,
Yeah.
in my head, okay.
So how long did it take you to get to that point where you could go into the store and get everything that you needed?
I mean, it was probably a couple months.
That takes patience. That
Yeah, well,
yeah.
well, because like I said, I would try to go in there and just raw dog it,
Mhm.
and go do everything, and then I would all of a sudden be a half a cart worth of stuff. Kind of felt bad for the person that found the cart that worked there because they had to go put all that shit back because it just is random cart in the middle of the aisle. Like, well, where the hell's the person that had this? I mean, you see it all the time when you're walking around the store and you see an
Mhm.
aisle and all of a sudden it's like you see an item that doesn't even belong anywhere in that store and
Yep.
somebody made a life decision that
Yeah.
day.
If it's me, it's because I decided to chug coffee right before I went shopping.
Oh well,
It's
yeah,
never
yeah,
a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah. Well, sometimes you see some random ass like probably like healthy. I've always seen is like some sort of like healthy food
Mhm.
that you want to get, and then it's always stuck in the middle of a 6 pack, and it's like
Dude,
somebody
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
said, "Fuck this, I'm getting a beer today."
I think that's one of the problems we ran into too is like the patience of it, right? I don't know why we think stuff should be solved so quickly, especially the skills that we learned in different professions or whatnot. That
So
took some
that's just
fucking
it.
time. But
It's just an
then
instant gratification. You want it now.
yeah, but I
I
mean
mean, just
everything
think
else
about it.
took time.
I can pull up my phone and I can have that delivered to my house in 30
Yeah.
minutes. So, I mean, I totally get the whole like instant gratification stuff on it or whatever. But I mean, and
Yeah.
there's some things that that still, like when you come to an event and volunteer, like, it's not gonna be immediate because we're gonna put your ass to work and stuff like that, but when you leave, like, it's kinda like the Boy Scout mentality of, like, leave, wherever you showed up to, leave it better than you came. There's twofold on that with our events to where not only are you leaving the event that the person's house, if we're doing a Home Depot project in the spring or the fall or whatever event that we're doing or wherever we're at, like, we're leaving that
Hmm.
that place or that venue or that person better than we left them.
It's something about just getting out of the house and socializing that makes it a lot better that you don't even realize it.
For sure. Well, you get around once you get around people that you have a commonality with,
Hmm.
that eventually opens the door to the harder conversations that really need to happen.
One of the things that we did a few years back was start a peer sport team on the police side of stuff, and they had that before, but it was like when people start being candid about stuff, it's like, oh,
Mm,
oh shit, we can say that. And I feel
right.
like you having this program and everything, it's just you're so candid. It's refreshing and scary at the same time, but I feel like, oh, okay, cool, I can say something, you know.
Yeah, well, I'll be the first person to share. I mean, I despise public speaking. To I mean, to the highest form of I absolutely hate this. I will be more than willing to be the first person to throw myself out there as the guinea pig kind of thing. Or like, like nobody wants to be the first person at the buffet to start eating because nobody wants to be judged for being the
Yeah.
fat ass that goes up there first to start getting their food or whatever. But I do that. Like, I'm very, you said, I'm very candid or very open about stuff that happened while I was deployed or just like in general. But there's a very like lonely, isolated version of me that you would never suspect
Hmm.
if you only met me tomorrow. So
So
and so
was
but
this the tie today then? Is that kind of a mask that you wore to eventually kind of become the person that you are instead of being a mask right now?
yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm perfectly fine and everything is great and wonderful and whatever. It's all still there. Like I have a box of all my bullshit that I try to keep up on the top shelf out of the way that nobody sees or that
Mhm.
I can't see because it's out of the way and it's up there and it's whatever. But then, something will happen. I had a guy, but my roommate before I got deployed just passed last year from cancer. Like it just kind of like it was an out of nowhere diagnosis, and I was like 2 months to the day, and he passed, kind of thing.
From
Yeah,
diagnosis to damn.
yeah, yeah. It was super quick.
Mm.
Stuff like that because you know, I knew Ryan for 22 years. Yeah, as a buddy,
Yeah.
a buddy of mine. I served with him. We deployed together. Did all the bullshit while we were in Iraq for 15 months back in 03, 04. Yeah, and then survive all of that and all the things that go along with all of it, and then something as off as that, like all of a sudden just wiped him out like it was nothing. So stuff like that kind of puts you down. And so that box that's up on the third shelf gets knocked down to the second or the first one or whatever.
Mhm.
And then I have to just remember to go back through the steps. Like I miss my friend and would rather talk to him in person kind of thing, but
Mhm.
that's not going to happen. And so just dealing with all that mix of emotions and that new normal. Inherently, if you can't control it, there's really not shit you can do about it. So you just have to figure out the best path forward for that, and then go with that.
So with all of this kind of that you've built up now, what is your I don't want to say end goal because I'm hoping this guessing you just hope this keeps on going for forever, but do you have like another benchmark or something else that you're hoping to get to with it or to build on?
I've never had one. I think that's what baffles most people too on the business side, because like nobody gets a paycheck, and that's fine. Because I mean, I'm of the mindset to where like right now, all of my efforts and everything that we're doing is for the betterment of either who or what we're doing. Who
Yeah.
is in the vet that we're trying to reach and get them to come out to an event or be a part of an event or get them into an event that we know that's going on, because
Mhm.
I can't do everything. And if there's somebody out there that's, I don't hunt, or I mean, I'll fish. I'll usually just put a hook on or a weight on the end of the hook and throw it out in the water and drink beer with my buddies or whatever.
Yeah,
But
sounds
like,
accurate. Yeah.
yeah, no bait, no nothing. I'm just casting
I'm
and just
fishing. I'm
hanging
not
out.
drinking. I'm
Yeah.
fishing.
Yeah. So I'm
Drink
just
just comes
waiting.
with it.
I'm waiting for my buzz to kick in. But there's always somebody that's doing something better than we're doing, or it's their
Yeah.
thing. Other than like getting out and about, doing the social activities and volunteering. We don't have like a one thing that we do, but that's because every vet or family that comes to us is into something different. So it's like where I'm into cars and working out, and so a little bit of my softer side, I do crafts and cook and do.
Mm.
But that's the things, those are the things that I did to disconnect
Yeah.
from the reruns or whatever. I used that as a motivator to run towards something constructive that at the end of the effort that I can be like, well, here's a whole pile of shit on my counter.
Mhm.
And then in an hour, here's a cake. Maybe you want to try it. I don't know. But doing stuff like that, like this is just the things that got me to disconnect. So like there's not any one thing. We just try to provide those same opportunities to whatever it is
Mhm.
that you're into. If it's one of those, like if we're not doing it or don't have somebody that's already a part of something like that, we'll figure out who is, or we'll figure out a way we create that. Just whatever it is that it gets somebody being constructive with their time versus
Mhm.
playing rerun and breaking themselves down
Yeah.
internally, and just having that constant judge with themselves.
I know that you're located in the Huntsville area. It's kind of a mishmash of people all over the world that kind of listen to this. Do you guys direct people that come in from outside of where you guys work at? Do you kind of have resources all over the place you can plug them into, or?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So I mean, I moved to Huntsville when I was 3, so I've lived here for 40 years, and so I have the contacts and just the know all of people and things that happen here
Mhm.
through that. And then, my time in the military and the people that I've connected with there that are spread out all over the country. And then my 15 years of working out on the arsenal as a the Department of the Army civilian, contacts that I have through that are kind of like a mix of spread all over the country slash they're also vets and stuff like that. And so if anybody anywhere reach out to us, all of the contact information is on our website, which will take you to all of our social media, phone number, and email. If it's the vet or a family member or a friend that says, hey, I got this thing going on, I need to find a
Mhm.
resource for XYZ, I can reach out to thousands of people that are closer to them than I am, that can find you the bearded warriors that's in your area, or or the best place. I always read, if I can't find anything that has any like good reviews or a lot of information on for
Yeah.
vet organizations and stuff like that, I'll always refer them to the nearest vet center because they'll have that information. Because there's always somebody there that's the community outreach person that's their job on top of the counseling part, is to find local resources that are offering activities or events or social things for vets and their family members to do.
Awesome. And then if we have people that donate, I think you guys have a place for that on your website as well, don't you?
Yeah, we do. They can get tabs out onto it. Goes to our Give Butter website. So if somebody wants to, if somebody wants to, one of the drop downs that kind of didn't get us in trouble, but it kind of got a couple of raised eyebrows for one of the other donation drives that was going on with one of the defense contract companies here in town. It's not for that. It's just a funny thing to catch people's attention. But if you want to donate and give somebody a lap dance, you can do that too. I mean, if you specifically if you go in and put that one and be like, no, bro, I want a lap dance with this money going in there, then, like we'll make sure that happens.
And
But
you are catering to military personnel, so
we were asked well, for that donation drive, because that's the link they were using to give out to the company. The two people asked it. They're like, "Hey, is there any way that you could take that one drop down off for like, we think it's hilarious and we think it's the best thing ever." But they're like, we work with some older generation folks that
Yeah.
probably won't think that's as funny as we do. So
I like it. I don't know where you got kind of the idea for help for doing the cop thing with the shirts and stuff, but I'll say one of the, obviously I own a few different shirts now, unfortunately, for
mm,
different people, but
yeah,
seeing other people wear them that weren't even associated with the police department,
right,
that was an extra cool thing to see. And we go to the gym and there'd be people that weren't associated with cops whatsoever wear them, so it's kind of a cool way to see community get involved in that sort of thing that I don't know if you meant for that to happen or not, but It was
It was
cool because
well,
we're seen as the enemy, or at least in
sure.
our heads, we're seen as the enemy all the time.
Especially around the same time when we did Billy's shirt, yeah,
Mhm.
that was a huge. It didn't have, but it honestly didn't have anything to do with that. Like that was kind of um, I guess a fringe benefit or a fringe like outcome that kind of came from that with the amount of like the people that were buying them. Because I've even seen some of the shirts down in Oakville
Mhm.
the last couple of years that have been wearing that wore that shirt, and I was like it caught. I'm like,
I love it.
That's my shirt. But I mean, it started because well, those shirts that we were doing for that because like when Bearded Warriors first started, on it, like just honestly with no bullshit or whatever, I was looking for drinking buddies,
Yeah.
just flat
That's a
out.
great motivator.
Well, I mean, that's because it's one of those like you get guys together that served in the military. That's gonna
Mhm.
happen or whatever, and so like that's what I was doing at the time was going and drinking or whatever. Typically, it was by myself, so I was like, well, hell,
Yeah.
it'd be a lot more fun if I had a couple of guys
Yeah.
I could talk to about shit while I'm doing this. But it was like inherently kind of like vets only. But then as everything kind of organically grew, kind of from the meet and greets that we were doing at the memorial, one of the guys, he and his wife drove together on Fridays to work because then they would go to dinner after work before they went home.
Mhm.
They decided they stopped in at the meet and greet prior to eating, and then somebody else was there, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know we could bring spouses with us." And I was like, "Well, I don't have one, so it's not on my not on my
Yeah.
radar or anything like that." And then what happened was the guys got to talk to each other, but then the wives got together and kind of started talking, and then
Mhm.
that network happened, just kind of organically grew from there. Unless it specifically says you can't. Everything that we do, you can bring your entire family,
That's
from
cool.
newborn babies to your 90-year-old grandma or whatever your family dynamic is. Whoever is around you most of the
Mhm.
time, bring them with you and hang out and stuff. All the things that like myself, the vet, or a police officer or a firefighter or EMT or nurse or even teachers
Mhm.
deal with themselves, their significant other or their kids or whatever that family dynamic is also is dealing with those exact same things times two, because they're dealing with the vet or the person having the issue, but
Yeah.
then they're also dealing with the isolation or the depression that comes with whatever that issue is, and or the outbursts that aren't necessarily directed at the family member, but as individual, we think that all of our problems are as vets and cops and, dealing
Mhm.
with the trauma part of the aspects of those jobs and those positions. The things that all of us do are the exact same in one degree or another. But
Mhm.
drinking or the isolation or staying away from family members or deep diving into just playing video games all the time and not doing anything with all of
Yep.
those different things that they do to try to unplug that doesn't really make them unplug from what's going on, but just everybody around them
Mhm.
allows the family members to talk about that and figure out ways to get their loved one to re-engage back with the family or their spouse and stuff like that. And so it's like just trying to find those avenues for who needs them and what they are. And we went from being kind of like a vet only specific to community kind of thing. And then double fold, like um when Billy passed, yeah, he
Mhm.
was he was a police officer, but
Yeah.
he was also in the military prior to him becoming a police officer. And so there, it wasn't a huge segue for that because he was basically a dual role in his life experience, but it's just another, an opportunity for everybody to continue talking about somebody's story, because what winds up happening is somebody's going to read the back of your shirt, and
Mhm.
then they may not ask the first time they see it, but maybe the second time they see somebody else wearing that shirt and ask like, "Hey, what happened to Billy Clardy, or what happened to Bradley or Nick or Garrett? How did they pass?" kind of thing. And just giving somebody that opportunity to share that person's story, because somebody can never die if you always continue to say their name. So that the shirts are a testament to every time you wear one of the EOW shirts, you're sharing in small places, just wearing it, you're sharing that person's story
Mhm.
to everybody that sees it in one way or
And we very much so appreciated it. I mean, I hate to speak for all of them, but they don't care. They all very much so liked them, and
Yeah.
it was a cool hat tip without being super super loud about it, because you guys are the same as cops. I think it's like, just stop saying the thank you, stop doing this thing.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
was like a quiet way of just respecting, and it was cool. So thank you for doing all of that stuff amongst all the other crap that you do, because
Well,
you
I
do a
mean,
lot.
that was just the idea. Everybody that bought the shirts is the one that made it what it was. We raised almost $7,000 to give to the police fund to be able to help out for other, well, for his family, and then also other families that are dealing with whatever's going on with their loss and stuff like that. So, that's just a testament to the community that we have in the Huntsville area.
Mhm.
But even farther than that, because there's people that don't even live here that bought the shirt that we mailed out to all over the place. So
Mhm.
it was super cool to see the reaction and effort that came out of that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see. I mean, I could keep asking you questions all night, but I also want to make sure that I'm not missing anything that maybe you want to make a point on.
Well, going back to the like, I don't have. There's not an end game. Like, there's never been one. It's just whatever's going on or whatever we can plug in to help
Yeah.
somebody be better, kind of thing. So like right now, the effort that we have going on right now, that's coupled with the Alabama challenge that Governor Ivey put out a couple years ago for suicide prevention,
Mm.
is the program that we got signed is a coalition that got put together since November. So 18 months ago, give or take, maybe a little bit more than that, 20 months ago. The Alabama Department of Veteran Affairs, the Alabama National Guard, the Governor's Challenge, so the governor's office, and then Bearded Warriors with, I want to say, about 6 other military and or first responder police groups got together in a coalition, and then got State Bill 40 introduced for the legislative stuff that came up in February of this year, that got put out and presented on the floor. So State Bill 40 is also known as the Houston Hunter Act, which is named after an Army vet and a Marine vet who committed suicide 2 and 3 years ago here, that lived in Alabama. Their moms, after both of their passings, created nonprofits to like keeping their name
Yeah.
alive, kind of. They were trying to keep other vets that may be dealing with things that they might want to end up taking a permanent solution, kind of thing. But it went through, and then in April was passed through the Alabama Senate and the House and everything, and then was signed by Governor Ivey. And what that does is allows veterans, first responder, military vets, an opportunity to where if they're dealing with some sort of a crisis
Mhm.
or have to go to a treatment facility, kind of thing, but they don't have anywhere that they can store their weapons or their ammo, that they can walk into an FFL that signs up under the program. It costs the FFLs nothing to do this, because we get donations and do fundraisers that provide the safes that are on premise at the FFLs that sign up. But it's a free, temporary, confidential holding program for weapons and ammo that they can walk into and turn it in, no questions asked. So it's storing ammunition, firearms to enhance resilience together. No questions asked on why or how
Mhm.
long. But you fill out a couple of pieces of paperwork that information is sent to myself and 2 other people. We're the only ones that have it. They keep it on file at the FFL just for a reach back purpose. But so say you come in and say, I'm having an issue, you're the FFL. I come in
Mhm.
and I've got 10 pistols and a rifle or whatever. And I'm like, hey, I have to go to a treatment facility, but I live in an apartment and I don't have anywhere that I can keep these while I'm gone.
Yeah.
They give you a packet of information. You fill out your name, email address, and phone number. There's a couple other questions that ask. And then so we take that information, we'll have your contact info, and then partner you with a peer counselor that will kind of like a mentorship kind of thing, to where
Yeah.
it's kind of like 988, but on a little more personal level, because you can talk to somebody, back and forth on a real time basis, and they'll check in on you and see what's going on, if you need any help or a resource or any kind of stuff like that. And then with that, depending on where they're at, they'll get a folder of information. And then
Mhm.
depending on where they're at, it will have information about that local area, whether it's Huntsville or Birmingham or Montgomery, Dothan,
That's cool.
Somerville, that'll have information on resources that are local to them that they can reach out to, or places that they can go volunteer at or get
Mm-hmm.
involved in doing things with, or being around people like-minded or experienced to them, so that they can have those conversations that most people kind of back away from after they hear the first couple minutes of, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, after they come back from treatment, because the safes that are on the property of the FFL belong to me,
Mm-hmm.
there is no NICS background check that's required to get your weapons back. Something that we're always asking people for. If they want to write a letter, we can put it on that card for them, and that'll go in one of those folders that's
That's
offered to
cool.
somebody. And so when they're going through the paperwork, and then all of a sudden you pull out this card, and it's from a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old
Yeah.
class, somebody in a teacher's class that wrote letters, and it was like, it'll say something, "Thank you for your service. I'm so glad you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you're doing," just a little note of encouragement kind of thing. But then when you come back to get it, you just say, "Hey, everything went well. I'm good to, I feel like I'm good to go. I can get them back now." And you take them back to where the safes are. They put in their 4-digit code and load everything up and go. The
Dude,
paperwork
that's awesome.
disappears and nobody knows about it. A vet, active duty, first responder, EMT, firefighter, nurse, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
has has any kind of suicidal ideation, the amount of, from the time the ideation happens and then the separating them from that mode, that whatever mode, the lethal means that
Mm-hmm.
they're going to do that. In this case, it would be weapon, gun or whatnot. The separation of that, the increase of them staying here and not choosing to use that, multiplies within every 5 minutes. Not only are you going to be able to go in and, like I said, give yourself that separation time that you need, but somebody's going to reach back out to you and follow up to make sure that all of the time of the interim, that you're not with that lethal means, that somebody's reaching out and checking on you, making sure you're good, or you have a line that you can reach out to,
Yeah.
but nothing that anybody's going to use against you, which works out really well, especially for active duty service members.
Yeah.
And then anybody that's on the police force,
Uh,
with this program, you're able to figure out and deal and work through those things without having to necessarily let everybody in the whole world know what's going on until you're comfortable doing that kind of thing. And there's only there's 3 states right now that have an active program that are allowing.
so you'll put something out once it's active, like you've got the safes out there and everything. You guys
No,
are
it's
gonna
already
kind
at.
of
We have
okay.
3. So Redland Rifle Company in the Birmingham, Hoover
Yeah.
area, Walter Craig Outfitters has theirs set up, and then My Gun Shop in Pelham also have.
Awesome.
Each of those locations have 4 14 capacity safes. Everybody's been trained up on, if a vet comes in, or first,
Mm-hmm.
military or first responder comes in, seeking to use the program. Everybody in the shop has been trained on the paperwork and, what's going on and who they need to talk to. And all that information is linked out on our website, beardedwarriors.org. But then there's also a website specifically for it, Safer Together.
That's cool. I hope that program sees success. I hope people get the word out and kind of know about it, and then it gets utilized. I think, like everything, it'll take a little bit for people to
Sure,
realize that it's safe
sure.
and then do it. But I
Yeah.
think it'll be
Yeah.
successful.
It's another tool in the arsenal of things that you can do to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and everybody around you.
And it says for us, my little spiel. I think a lot of times we do that whole thing where it's like, nobody's coming. You got to save yourself, all this other stuff. I'm sure they do the same. I don't know if it was a military term that the police used too. I don't know. It
Hmm.
goes together sometimes. So you say that all the time when you're out there, and then you come home, or you're a cop and you just go home, and
Hmm.
then you reacclimate to that life for those few hours, and nobody says, hey, you also kind of gotta, nobody's coming for this too. Like, you've got people there, but you gotta take that step to go and like actually survive your
Yeah.
life at home too. So
Yeah,
thanks for
for
giving
sure.
those steps to people and facilitating that relationship outside of their work life or
Yeah, for sure.
whatnot, whatever you
Well,
want to call it.
the whole quote on that, nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah.
The rest of that nobody says, because that seems like more of a punchline on it, is
Yeah.
nobody's coming to save you,
Mm-hmm.
semicolon, from yourself.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, did not know that.
Yeah. That's
That's awesome.
but I mean, it either way, it runs true. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's coming to pay my bills. Nobody's coming to make sure I cook dinner or do
Mhm.
cut my grass. nobody's also coming to save you from yourself. So if you sit there and, you try to play yourself in and suck yourself into the kind of the victim mentality and woe is me and everything sucks and, throw a couple other Limp Bizkit freaking phrases out there. But
God, now you're really showing the age.
Yeah. Hey, he's still out there on tour. So
yeah.
But like, just putting yourself in, boxing yourself into a corner kind of thing. If you get to the point like I was way back when, like where you self-isolated to the point to where people would invite you to go somewhere, and then you would, like, I would say, yeah, oh sure, yeah, that sounds good, I'll be there, no problem. And then I had no intentions on ever fucking going, and I never went.
See you there.
See you there, be there, or, whatever. But then those invites eventually stop coming because, people just, okay, well, fuck it. He's not going to show up anyway. So we're just not even going to worry about it. But then all of a sudden you backed yourself into a corner of, well, nobody's inviting me to do anything anymore. Everybody must hate me, or what's wrong with me because I'm not going and hanging out with anybody anymore. And it's like, well, because over the last 6 months, you've been invited 2 or 3 times a week to go do something and you've blown it off, or that's the nobody's coming to save you from yourself part.
So I don't keep it for 3 hours. That's all the questions I got, unless there's something else you want to add on that I missed out, like from earlier.
No, I don't think so. Like I say, if anybody's dealing with something, reach out and talk to the person that's sitting next to you, whether it's a coworker, not your kid, unless they're an adult. But like, reach out to talk to somebody. Just tell them you got something going on. Like, should have the opportunity to share something that's going on with them. Reach out to somebody else that can provide something more than just a listening ear, and they'll try to help you start fixing some of those things so that, you can hang around and we can make fun of how old we are and our pop culture references later in life.
But truly, fucking thanks for what you do, and I hope that this continues to see success on some shit, because I got a lot of people in the military, a lot of friends, and a lot of people that were in the military and then became police and had rocky roads for various reasons. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. We all need a little help sometimes.
And if there's anything I can ever help you with, let me know. I'll put all the links and everything in the websites out there to kind of help out on that front a little bit, hopefully.
Anytime anybody reaches out to the website or the social media or phone call or text, it's me. I answer all of the social media, so if I don't get back to you, sorry. But if you reach out, like, you're not talking to some rando person that is, through the widgets or whatever, or a robot. Like, there's a person on the other end, and it's my dumbass. So
good luck.
Yeah, to all of us.